Are you anxious to call the
Yeah.
game, the Senior Bowl?
Well, yeah, anxious, can be defined in two ways. Anxious because you're excited, anxious because you're nervous. Because the hardest thing about this game, now my third time in a row I'm doing it, is I got all the numbers and the names and notes and all that, but you kind of forget who's on what team. It's not like Bears Packers. You know who's a Bear, you know who's a Packer. So those guys who do college football every week when you're learning two new teams. But this is different. It's National American, and you're trying to remember, and the colors are similar. So who played on what team, That's what you have to remember.
Are there any particular players that you have been intrigued by that you didn't expect to be?
God,
or
yes.
like how many? Huh?
I talked to Tom. We had our show and a podcast yesterday, but I talked to Thayer, and I go, man, there's just something about watching real football practice. And so, obviously, the game was the practices were on NFL Network, and it was just good old-fashioned clean fun, man. The one-on-ones, everybody put in great effort. These guys it's a job interview. They took it seriously. They, unfortunately, agents get involved, and if a guy has done well, they hey, you've done enough. You've solidified your status as a potential first-round pick, or you made yourself some money this week. So there's a lot of dropouts after Wednesday's practice, and so therefore the game gets thinned out a little bit, and that's always aggravating. But I get it. I understand the football season's longer now, but yes, these guys, man, there are some fabulous athletes in this class.
Ooh.
You just look at the length and the explosiveness, the power on the line of scrimmage in particular. That's where all my eyes are going these days. The running backs, this is a very good class of running backs. Not just Senior Bowl, obviously, but the entire class. But there's some bruisers in here, man. There's some guys that can do some damage and are two-pronged players that can catch the ball and run it with efficiency. So, yeah, tight ends, some really good tight ends. So, yeah, I'm very excited about calling the game. But the offensive and defensive line one-on-ones, that was a treat. That really was a treat to watch.
Jeff Joniak joining us. It's Waddle and Silvy. Dionne's in for Waddle. And in the running back thing that you touched on, and I've been reading that a lot lately, isn't that an indicator? Because I think that the Bears can certainly improve the running back room, especially in more of the mold of what Ben Johnson wants his running back room to look like. But it also, because it's deep, like you just said, that it's a good class, it means you could get them later, correct?
Yes, and that's what we keep hearing Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, is talking about, that there is a surplus of running backs available in this draft, and it comes at perfect timing. Saquon Barkley, yeah, perfect timing, right? Everybody's all excited about the running backs in the NFL, so you're going to get some really good choices here. Yeah, I listen. If you look at Detroit's motto, and he's made it very clear, we're not just going to pick up that offense and drop it into the Bears scheme, and that's what we're going to do. They're creating their own scheme and a version of whatever it is they're going to be. But I love running backs. I don't think you can have too many. Obviously, you can only carry so many, but really good ones that can do a little bit of everything. And I think what we saw there, that's thunder and lightning, right? That is thunder and lightning. A clap of thunder and a bolt of lightning. So I'm thinking that's what he might be interested in, and the Bears might be interested in. So we'll see. But there's guys that fit that. There's on the national team, if you're going to watch the game tomorrow, if you're going to pay any attention to it, there's like 4 running backs on the national team that are 6 feet or bigger, and their loads, 240, 230, 227. On the American team, they're more diminutive in the 5'9", 5'8", 5'7" range, but all these guys have a little something different to them, and that's just the Senior Bowl guys. So I think it's going to be a really good draft for that.
Jeff, it's not just what they're doing on the field. Like all these coaches, anyone in attendance is watching just how these guys operate, and good team players, right? Like that's a big aspect of what's going on this week. It's not just what they're doing on the field, but it's who they are when they get to interact with them, right?
100%, and there was some terrific jobs done by the coaching staffs here. Mike Kafka, Chicago's very own Northwestern guy, had these competition periods at the end. I honestly, in all the years I've been watching the Senior Bowl, and I've attended some as well, the energy and the juice for those was off the charts. It was Bubba Ventrone, the special teams coordinator of the Browns, did the same thing. And you could just see how much these guys loved it. They loved the competition, and they took it quite seriously. I mean, it was some really fun battles to watch. Unfortunately, it won't carry over to the game necessarily individually because a lot of those guys are not playing tomorrow. But in terms of that, there's a guy in particular that he is going to play. He's a linebacker. Not that the Bears are interested in any linebackers. They're pretty good set there. But Jeffrey Bassa of Oregon, wearing number 2 on your roster, that guy, you could hear his voice through the television. It was constant. He broke down the team every single practice. You could tell that guy's a leader, Dionne. Much to your point, what's that guy doing? Guys gravitated to him. He was just named. Each of these position groups get a player of the week, and they're picked by. So, for example, defensive linemen are picked by offensive linemen. Linebackers are picked by running backs and tight ends. And so this is their own, and Jeffrey Bassa was picked at linebacker. So this is your peer group. So, you get an indication of some of the guys that do have that ability to bring guys together or just flat out played really well.
That's cool.
All right, let's talk big picture Bears here, Jeff. The last time we talked to you was in studio at Hallis Hall right after the Ben Johnson press conference. Since that time, the coaching staff has been mostly filled out. We're still waiting for the offensive line coach and a few other positions, but we do know now who the defensive coordinator is, the offensive coordinator is. We know the assistant head coach with Antoine Randall L., which I love that they were able to get him. It's been a mystique to me, the way I put it, Jeff. I've always looked to Antoine Randall L. as the guy that we couldn't land. Like, he was from here, but he didn't play for the Illini. He played for Indiana. Then he went and he played for Pittsburgh. The Bears could never get him. Then he was coaching for another team inside the division. Now, finally, the local kid comes home and can hopefully bring the team back. And what I love about him is he seems to be a guy that holds the team accountable, yet can be one of the room's biggest cheerleaders as well, which I think is very important and has built trust within that unit in Detroit. So when you look at what he's been able to do, Ben Johnson, in a short amount of time, you say what?
I say it's pretty impressive. There's a mix of ages. There's a mix of players who are recognizable that played in the league. Obviously, Al Harris and Randall L. I did see Randall L. in the lunchroom yesterday. I was up at Hallis Hall to interview the coordinators for the Bears, and big smile on his face. You forget how, he wasn't the biggest guy, man. He was not the biggest guy in the world, but he packed a punch, played 143 NFL games, obviously with the Steelers, we remember, but he also played in Washington. And I said, the last time I saw you, I was interviewing you at a Super Bowl. So, it was good to see him at a big smile on his face. You could tell how excited he is. And everybody knows that Al Harris is equally as respected by the players that he's coached. He's coached some really good players. Dennis Allen speaks like a head coach. He's got that experience. He's calm. He's to the point, and you know what he wants. He wants a pressure defense. The word that I kept hearing from everybody, and I said it on the show last night on Bears Weekly, it's a collection of words that kept popping up. So everybody's speaking from the same playbook here. And that is aggressive, violent, communicative, transparent, whatever it is you want to throw in that pile of NFL terms, they're all speaking the same language, all the coordinators. That's what Ben Johnson is looking for. And I love what they're thinking. Now we've got to see how it all looks when they all put it together, because they are putting these things together from scratch. They have their philosophies, but they're going to tailor game plan and scheme that fit what they're going to bring in or how they want to adjust based on where they've been in the past.
Are you surprised that Richard Hightower is sticking around?
No. He's an excellent special teams coach, well respected by his players. They did some really good things last year. He's had a lot of success in this league. Obviously with San Francisco, was his breakout time. Did some great things there in San Francisco. I know players like Josh Blackwell, the operation, the kicker, snapper, punter, they love him. And as the season went on, I look at a guy like Daniel Hardy. You're looking for coaches that grow players. I think you can safely say he grew that player. Daniel Hardy came out of nowhere and played with a viciousness and a style that is embraceable, and working his way to try and get in that defensive line rotation. He was one of the best special teams players on this team. Obviously, they were early in the season that they committed too many penalties. They cleaned that up and got better as the season went on.
Is there a player for both of you guys?
Yeah.
Is there a player on this team that you think can benefit the most by a new coaching staff? And whether that be because of what Ben Johnson does on offense or Dennis Allen being aggressive in his nature on defense as a coordinator, that without having a change of scenery can really sort of rehab who he is with a new coaching staff?
Well, number one, it's got to be Caleb. Like, that's the no-brainer. I mean, that's why Ben Johnson is here. It's got to be Caleb on the offensive side of the ball. I'd love to see how Rome Odunze takes that next step. He's a ninth pick in the draft. He's got to be a superstar player to make that pick. That's a big investment at that pick. So, working with Antoine Randall and his experience as an NFL player, I think Rome's going to be all ears. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm just going to assume that Jaquan Brisker is ready to roll, and I can't wait to see how he's deployed. I use that term a lot.
Yeah, you do.
Because Kyler Gordon is deployed, and his name continually is brought up. It's interesting that Dennis Allen and also Ben Johnson, the first place they go on that defense is the secondary. And until further notice, it remains the heartbeat of the football team because of the play of Jalen Johnson, the play of Kyler Gordon, what we think and what we know Jaquan Brisker can be when healthy. I'm going to go in that route. What do you think, Dionne?
Well, I mean, the obvious is Caleb. You're right. I mean, this is the coach he wanted. This is what he was excited about, what this is going to bring for him and his game moving forward. I think that's pretty obvious. I think Cole Kmet could benefit a lot from this, too, just having a fresh set of eyes on what he can do, and someone who's not coming in bringing a tight end from a different team and not really knowing his personnel as well. I think Cole Kmet can benefit a lot from what Ben Johnson will be able to scheme up for him, because I think he is a valuable weapon, and he wasn't utilized in the right way last season. So I think that's a big one. Defensively, I would agree with you on Brisker. I want some sort of an update on him, Jeff. Like, I want to know how he's feeling. He certainly tweeted that he was incredibly excited about this hire, and he's been very active on social media. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that means he's feeling more himself and will be able to do some off-season work with the team. We'll get to talk to him and see where he's at, because I think you're right. For him to catch up with Gordon and what Jalen Johnson is doing, and I think that they can continue to be the heartbeat of the defense.
Yeah. I'll say this, too. Interviewing Declan Doyle, and we'll hear that at some point on the station in one of our Bears shows.
Another embargoed interview? Is this another embargoed one?
Yeah.
Well, it's the off season. You got to catch as catch can, right? You got to store some material for the off season. Access is more limited. He flat out admitted to me, Cole Kmet underused. So utilization will be really important. So I'm glad you brought that up, Dionne.